Hello guys and welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. Once again I'm Greg and this is the Starting 11 show. Of course it's Monday night football. We have Stellini's Spurs, get to give them a test and see what they're made of. And for this we're off the back of an international break and with the news that we have a fairly clean bill of health. Of course Calvert-Lewin's still not fit and Andros Townsend is a long-term absentee. But other than that we look fine. Calvert-Lewin is back on the grass, by the way, is the latest update we have of him. Still not training with the team, but back on grass sounds like another step towards that. Nice to see we're taking this injury more seriously. You know, under previous managers, we might have thrown him in at 30%, 40%, and just hoped we could accrue enough points to keep us up. But it kept the issue going longer and longer. It seems like Dyche is actually trying to find tangible ways to play without him and pick up points so that we can have him maybe for the final stretch, the final few games, a more pragmatic approach. Patterson could play, which is nice. It gives us a bit more depth at right back. I don't think Coleman has looked bad at all under Sean Dyche. He's doing more of what Coleman is good at in his age. But Patterson gives us depth and options, and Iwobi, who was a slight concern, is back in. And remarkably, we've got through an international break where we've had no fresh injuries, especially Coleman. It's almost always Coleman. Onana got 2 games in and didn't get injured, so let's count ourselves lucky. In terms of what we do with the team, a very hard-fought point versus Chelsea. This is a Chelsea team that's considerably worse or going through a much worse period than this Spurs team, who are in turmoil themselves, especially with Conte going. But to say they're a similar threat, I think, might be slight reductionism. But that being said, I would go with a similar style. If we can, it's a tough period we're in fixture-wise, tight and against top opposition. So if we can keep grinding out points, we're going through an end game now where a lot of the teams at the bottom are playing each other, and we, I think, out of that bottom cohort are the ones who play others in the bottom the least. So if we can keep picking up points in games like this whilst those teams are taking points off each other, that's very good news for us when it comes to us playing teams like Palace and Bournemouth, because it means if we can beat them, we should be able to pull clear. So in terms of looking at the team, of course, Pickford stays in goal, and I even with Patterson back, don't think I'd change the back line, which means Coleman, Keane, Tarkowski and Godfrey. I'd love to know what you guys have thought of 2 things in that back line, actually. Michael Keane coming back in, mixed bag, I think, but of course you've got the Dyche. I don't want to call it favouritism, that makes it sound a bit like he doesn't deserve to be in there, but with Dyche leveraging perhaps the past connection he has with Keane and knowing that Keane knows how to play in that system. And then what do you think of Godfrey instead of Mykolenko? He's obviously come in with Mykolenko struggling a little bit, and Godfrey. We said when Dyche came in, Godfrey and Holgate at those fullback positions, we might see a little bit more. We're now seeing it with Godfrey, and I think he's doing a good job. So that's what I think the back line would look like. Of course, more conventionally, if you looked at that team, and certainly under Lampard, you'd be looking at Mykolenko and Patterson. What do you guys think? And I guess the other debate it brings up looking at that back line is, what do we do with Cody with the Tobai option? If Michael Keane's coming in, we've still got Mina, we've still got Godfrey, we've still got Holgate. How do you rearrange the pack? How do you shuffle the deck come the next transfer window when the season ends? Who do you look to get rid of? Who do you look to keep? And do you look at triggering that clause with Cody? Onto the midfield. Let's keep it pretty much unchanged. That's Idrissa Gueye, that's Onana, and that's Doucouré. The Doucouré renaissance under Sean Dyche is something incredible. It's something similar to what Iwobi was seeing under Frank Lampard, and I listened to something with Iwobi in the other day saying Frank Lampard saved his career, and give it 10 months' time, Doucouré might be saying the same thing about Sean Dyche. So keep that midfield strong. Onana coming off the back of 2 games with Belgium, that's only going to boost his confidence. I think we're seeing, as the season goes on, it's a weird one with him because his first game and the game against Arsenal, he looked incredible, and we're sort of seeing that performance stretched out over the rest of the season, where we're seeing those qualities that we saw from him slowly come out again, and there's a few weaker performances, but young man, new league. How many midfielders do you see come into a Premier League side now, especially one struggling for relegation, and cement themselves as a starter and become one of the most consistent performers? So, Onana, stick with him. Gay, Onana, and Decore. Of course, out on the sides you'll have McNeil, who's looked like a much better oiled machine under Sean Dyche's delivery has been fantastic. I think he would be an absolutely different beast if we had Calvert-Lewin to get on the end of those chances. And that's a question when it comes to striker as to who's the better fit for that situation. But the delivery's been fantastic. And Iwobi on the other side, of course. I imagine Iwobi might be getting a little distressed. His whole career has pivoted around this idea of wanting to play centrally but being forced out wide. And we saw at times at Everton when we were playing him under Lampard, he was people were describing him as one of the best central players in the league at the time, and he was definitely our best player for knockings of the season in that position. But hopefully Dyche's more compact football means he can pick up the balls in those areas and drive anyway. So kick that can down the road. Up front, Ellis Sims got his first goal against Chelsea. Of course, a great cameo from him. It looked a simple goal, but that turn of pace and the shot from the tight angle looked like something we haven't had from a striker in a while. Calvert-Lewin's been our archetype for a while. Sticking between the posts and just get the ball on his head, by his foot, hope he can get something on it. Someone of the Lukaku ilk when we had him, like that's what that goal conjured up for me from Ellis Sims, was someone who could get the ball in a deeper position, drive and shoot, and we've been desperate for that. For this one, I imagine we stick with Gray as a starter and then look to Sims a little later on and unleash that side of his game. That's how I would line up, and unchanged from Chelsea really. So Pickford, Coleman, Keane, Tarkowski, and Godfrey, with of course Decore, Gay, Onana midfield. Decore the most far forward of those options. McNeil and Iwobi, and then Gray up top. Let me know what you think of that. Of course, a load of questions asked about the back line, but in terms of midfielders, would you like to see James Garner come in and be tested? Gray or Sims? In terms of wide players, we don't have too much depth. Maybe answer whether you think Townsend has a space when he comes back in. Let's hope for another good result here, guys. We can leverage that disunity that's going on at Spurs at the moment and see if we can turn them over for a few points. Cheers, guys.